There will be our usual offensive content and spoilers, but an extra double-strength spoiler warning, because we saw Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and we are going to spoil so much about that movie. If you have not yet seen Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and you are bothered by spoilers, put this aside, listen to it after you're done the movie. If you have seen it or are not bothered by spoilers, listen on.
And if you really want to listen to us and you want to skip the Star Wars spoilers, just look for the timestamp below and you can skip right past it.
True, but we can't guarantee there won't be a spoiler for it or something else that crops up, so our usual spoiler warning still applies. This is Two Fat Guys Talk, episode 79. No, seriously, they made Star Wars episode 7. My name is Carlitos.
This is Dave.
Devaniel. Dave for short. Dave, let's talk some Force Awakening.
Yeah. I guess we should really start off with the fact that this movie was better than every good idea in the prequels.
It was... Take any, 3 lines of dialogue from this film, and those 3 lines exhibit mastery beyond the entire prequel trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, you can tell J.J. Abrams did this movie, but in a good way.
It was definitely shot more
he cared.
It was shot in a more practical way. It was definitely, the everything from the set design to the effects to the lines to the overall plot and whatnot, everything was just very masterful. We're introduced to a pair of new protagonists for Star Wars, Finn and Rey, a person of color and a woman. This is a very progressive film. Tons of characters who are not white dudes, thankfully. The white dude that counted most was Han Solo, and Han Solo was awesome. Poe Dameron also definitely counts, although there's a big segment of the movie he's absent, though he definitely steals the show anytime he's on and talking, right? I suspect Poe Dameron will play a greater role in Episode 8.
Yeah, this movie just did so much right. He's definitely a fan of the original material.
For sure. There was a lot of original Star Wars A New Hope in this film, mixed with a little bit of J.J. Abrams' own signature kind of style. There's definitely parallels between this and the Star Trek reboot he helmed. There's definitely quite a few parallels in that they're kind of his take on an established IP, and because of that, they feel similar. Although, for my money, this is the better film. I will say that this film, and this is not a bad thing, because films can exist on their own or they can be part of a series. I used to think all films needed to exist on their own. My opinion on that has softened a little bit, but this film is definitely, it tells a complete story in and of itself, but it's also a transitionary film, one that leads to events in Episode 8, but also one that requires that you watched at least Episodes 4, 5, and 6. Funny enough, you know what I didn't see a lot of in this film was a lot of reference to the prequels. There was not a lot from Episodes 1, 2, and 3 talked about in this film. And I know exactly why, because definitely those films are seen as a black mark, and J.J. Abrams wants to distance himself from that. But at the same time, it's a little disappointing, because good or bad, those are still Star Wars, and those are still the most recent 3 Star Wars live-action films, right? So I think that you can't erase their existence. I think you have to acknowledge they existed and acknowledge their role in the fiction as a whole.
Okay, but let me flip this around, though. With the exception of the characters of Luke, Leia, Han Solo, and the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, what? Chewbacca's not a character now?
And of course...
Freaking racist.
And of course, Furball Chewie.
Furball Chewie.
Can you name many references to 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah, the big ones you just said. Those are huge. Except for these really big references.
All I'm saying is, outside of characters who showed up in this movie from 4, 5, and 6, places, events, everything else, 4, 5, and 6 themselves were not referenced. Like, the events that happened in 4, 5, and 6, other than really the Death Star, and that the Jedi exist.
This is true.
We didn't get a mention of the Battle of Yavin. We didn't get, really any, even the Death Star they showed was from 4.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't from 6. It seems like this one was meant as more of okay, yes, you kind of have to know these characters. But even if you didn't, you would still be able to get a complete story.
Yeah, this film can work as a starting point. You don't need... Even The Phantom Menace relied on you kind of having seen the original 3, which is why I still argue that the numbering of this series is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, you're right. You could jump into 7 and you don't need to have known those past things. In fact, that's another thing I was going to bring up about 7. A lot of things were left intentionally vague.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the Republic has been established and that it may have been destroyed, or at least part of it was, by the Starkiller base, the Starkiller laser. But at the same time, we didn't get too much into the inner workings of it. We know that there's a First Order, but we've seen pieces of it, not everything.
Yeah.
We know that there's still smuggling and there's still issues with the galaxy and problems in the galaxy. But we don't see too much of it outside of our main character's perspective.
The only thing that we actually know for sure, other than the conflict, is now between the Republic, the Rebellion...
The Resistance.
Mm-hmm. And the First Order.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that it was a throwaway line, but we know the Imperium, the Imperial Empire, no longer exists.
That's right.
It is now the remnants have become
the First Order. That's right.
So that's the only thing we actually know. Like, the Rebellion no longer exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it became the Republic. And this resistance is a resistance to the First Order, which has considerable power. And that this resistance is backed by the Rebellion. No doubt... the Resistance probably has some degree of autonomy, but Leia Organa is there, so let's...
Yeah, and, I mean, another thing an event that happens in this movie is it looks like the head of the Republic, which I think may be Coruscant. They don't tell us this, though, but the shot they gave us of them looking up looked like Coruscant with one of the city worlds.
Oh, yeah,
Though there have been multiple city worlds, so it may not be, but...
The Grand Moff Tarkin stand-in, whose name I don't remember. I caught all the names in this movie except that guy and the Supreme Leader. Even though they mentioned it was Scone.
I thought it was...
Scone or Slade or Sarsaparilla or something.
No, it was either Stone or Scone.
It was not Stone or Scone. A stone is a rock and a scone is a scone, Dave. Dave's just Googling this. But I mean, yeah, they did mention that they were going to destroy the Republic, which is almost a throwaway line but you consider the big ramifications of that. Like, yeah, the Republic is now probably in tatters, which is definitely a really good reason for one Mr. Skywalker to come back into the fold.
Man, they did a good job of making him look old, but yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
Mark Hamill was basically 2 cameos in this.
Yeah, pretty much 2 cameos. I hope that they've already, the episode 8 is supposed to begin filming in January. And I'm seriously hoping they've already started and that he's already done some stuff, because he was in New Zealand,
Snoke,
that's right, it was Snoke.
Kylo Ren is not... works under Supreme Leader Snoke. Who is a powerful figure in the dark side of the Force.
Yep, okay, there it is, Snoke.
So yeah, and credit to that, I mean, he showed up very much like the Emperor did at first, owning holograms.
Although they were very quick to reveal his face.
Yes.
They didn't hide his face, and I suspect that's because that's what they did with the Emperor in The Empire Strikes Back, right? They showed just a silhouette, and they only showed his face in Return of the Jedi. Here, Snoke was shown right away, and we see his facial structure, and
he's huge. It looks like
that's a hologram.
I realize, but his body proportions to that throne look like he could be a larger alien.
Well, maybe he is just this giant.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, perhaps. I like that they subverted our expectations a bit with the movie posters and whatnot. We all thought that Finn was going to be the Force-sensitive potential Jedi, and that Rey was going to be the smuggler scavenger analog who was going to be still a big part of the story. No, it's Finn's story is that of a former Imperial trooper sickened by what he's become and wanting to change. And Rey is the Jedi in training now. She's the one who's discovering that she has power in the Force. Will Finn become Force sensitive? Is he Force sensitive right now? Entirely possible. There was that look Kylo Ren gave him right at the beginning.
He did have a harder time trying to do the whole mind read thing on him, but it wasn't like trying to read Ren.
Who?
Ren.
Who are you talking about?
Check.
What's her name, Dave?
I got all these names in my head right now. Just
her name is Rey.
Rey.
Ren is Kylo Ren, the bad guy.
So yeah, it was nice that she's the Force sensitive, definitely.
Yeah. Finn can become that or not. I'm good either way. I do like that one of our two protagonists, and Finn and Rey are definitely protagonists, both protagonists here. I like that one of them is a former Imperial or a former First Order, a former Stormtrooper, really.
And something interesting, again, another almost throwaway line. So, all these current Stormtroopers are children taken from their parents at a very young age and brainwashed.
Pretty much.
Because they also throw the line out of, if these Stormtroopers aren't able to follow orders and get things done, maybe they'll make a clone army.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, the very fact that they're throwing out the clone line just shows how much that this has changed from the Imperial.
And I guess that's one reference to the prequels right there.
Yes.
While we're on that topic. There was very little Luke. He appears pretty much right at the end and in one cameo during a flashback.
Yep.
There were no bounty hunters named Fett anywhere to be seen, which is fine. They don't need to be here.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was that they definitely kept to the backwater worlds, really, as much as possible. They showed glimpses of the big city worlds, but they were just glimpses. The biggest place they went to was the Starkiller base itself, which appears to be built into an ice planet, which is cool as shit.
Mm-hmm.
But still, though, they keep upping the ante with these weapons. Solar system destroyer that literally sucks up a sun and then shoots a sun at multiple planets in hyperspeed.
Yeah.
What's next? What kind of weapon do they make next?
Here's the thing. Throughout the Legacy universe,
Are we talking about the original films or the Legends line that is the
Legends
canon?
line?
Okay.
They had no less than 4 additional Death Star types they tried to make.
Yep.
Including one that a Hutt tried to build that would actually be able to use the laser like a kind of a lightsaber. That didn't work out so well.
Mm-hmm.
But we had the Sun Crusher.
Yep, the Sun Crusher from.
And I think that was probably the most scary weapon they built because it was not even the size of the Millennium Falcon.
No, it was small, and it fired projectiles that were tiny, and that would fire into his sun and then blow it up.
Cause the whole the whole system there to blow the fuck up.
Yeah.
So, if you're talking escalation, that's next. But I mean, this Death Star kind of did that dual purpose already. It would have killed the solar system they were in by sucking up the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it was able to hit multiple targets at once, fuck.
I think
And
he's
what
Green
was
Arrow.
up with some of those freaking torpedoes they were launching? Like, these guns have gotten good.
Yeah, those homing missiles were,
Damn!
They were something else. They were... If we had to fight those in TIE Fighter, it would have been a lot harder to intercept incoming missiles. And they tried to intercept, and Finn got one. But...
Yeah, and let's talk about technology from this film. The new TIE Fighters look amazing.
I love it. It's amazing what you can do by just taking a regular TIE Fighter and giving it a slick new black and white paint job, and black, white, and red paint job. It looks really good. I want to know...
Awesome.
I want to know so much about these TIE Fighters that they never actually told us. Are they shielded? Are they capable
They're
of
not
hyperdrive?
shielded.
They didn't look shielded, did it?
No, they're not. They're still not shielded, but they're two-seater.
They're two-seaters with a turret.
One person... I mean, that is a big change for TIE Fighters. Okay, granted, you're losing twice the guys without shields. Also, they have atmosphere in the TIE Fighter now.
Yeah, before
they had to wear airsuit or
life support. The only TIE Fighters that had atmosphere were the TIE Advanced, and I think that's it. Not even the TIE Defender had that.
That's correct.
The craft did not look shielded, but it definitely took a hit really well. So it's entirely possible, like shields weren't brought up too much in this. In fact, the X-Wings they were using didn't look terribly shielded either.
They were taking a good hammering before they lost parts.
So were TIE Fighters, though. What I'm wondering is, have fighter hulls become so resilient that shields are just useless now? Shields are good on the large scale, maybe, but no longer on the small scale.
Well, the Millennium Falcon still had them.
It would be it did have the shields. They did mention shields. But the other thing is that we just could not just be seeing the shield effect. Maybe that's just it. Which means that TIE Fighter may well have been shielded, for all we know.
Potentially.
It seems risky to put two guys on an unshielded craft. The First Order is not the Empire. They don't have clone soldiers to spare like that.
That is true. I would really like to see the specs and stuff. Like, even the new X-Wings. They look neat.
They were nice. I like how Poe Dameron closed the foils to fit into tight spaces and whatnot.
Yes.
Generally in combat, the foils stay open, so maybe there's a more combat-oriented close foil mode.
And there's something else to call out about the new TIE Fighters. TIE Fighters were not very agile in atmosphere.
Nope,
these TIE Fighters were improved.
These TIEs are great. Actually, didn't Finn and Poe at the beginning say they were gonna, like, Finn wanted to get away from the system and Poe wanted to go back? Finn seemed to have it in his head that they could get away. That to me suggests that there's hyperdrive on this TIE.
There very well could be, and regular TIEs didn't have hyperdrive in the old days.
The only
Advanced and Defenders sometimes did.
Advanced and Defenders were the only ones that did.
Yeah.
Regulars
and bombers,
interceptors, and bombers all needed to be docked up by.
With the exception of Vader's.
Vader's was the prototype TIE Advance, though, so that counts. Oh, nerd lore for Star Wars ships.
A good call out for bringing up a whole bunch of new aliens.
Yeah, tons.
I mean...
Fat guy, bug alien, new cantina aliens.
The one that was...
Oracle lady.
That was neat. Just how expressive the character was with not just the voice, but the eyes. Was so well done.
It's funny, I read an interview about her voice actor.
Yeah?
And, there's 3 names I clearly missed. Because I don't remember her character name either. It was pretty complicated.
I thought it started with an M.
It was something. It was something. Carlos, podcast.
Speciesist.
Yeah, I am. I'm pretty speciesist. All in all, great film. Miles ahead of the prequels.
I'm guessing that Rey was probably there when Ben took out the other students.
Entirely possible.
I think that she was actually there when it happened.
Maybe she suppressed the memory, and when Luke saw her at the end, was...
That's why I'm thinking that it might be his daughter, or it might be Han and Leia's daughter, because it could be somebody who they thought was dead.
It just could be another student, too.
And
Rey does not have to be related to anyone.
It just goes with the whole Skywalker curse. That eventually, brother and sister will have to fight. One of the Skywalker legacy will go dark and be redeemed, maybe. The fact that, it's Ben. They named him Ben, he went dark. That's just awesome to me.
Why didn't they name him Obi-Wan? Ben was an alias.
Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, that was an alias. His name was Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a terrible alias because he named himself Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, but let's admit, Luke was on the planet as Luke Skywalker.
This is true.
And he was applying...
Fuck was he not found?
And he had applied to become a TIE fighter pilot.
Yep.
So...
His name is in the system!
You'd think there'd be a flag somewhere in the system for, sir, we have a Skywalker applying to join us. Get him on a shuttle now.
I love how expressive BB-8 was. BB-8.
I thought I was gonna hate BB-8.
Oh, yeah, I love BB-8.
And, okay. I will admit that my opinion of BB-8 has become colored due to stupid commercials.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of ads we've been hit by, just the general... We didn't know anything about the character, but everybody fucking loved BB-8 all of a sudden. It's like, can we at least get to the point where we know something about him other than he rolls around?
Well, we know that he's an astromech droid.
Which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
He's also, in my opinion, much better designed than R2.
He's tiny as shit compared to R2.
He's tiny, but he can get places.
His design is great, and since they've shown this is a thing that exists in our reality, when they showed him at that conference, yeah, BB-8, great. I like BB-8. I like how expressive BB-8 was. I like how the original films, less the prequels, and more the original films, had this great job of showing so much expression with characters whose languages we don't understand. And this film did exactly the same thing. You knew exactly what Chewbacca was saying most of the time, even though you didn't know what he was saying. Same with BB-8. Same with a bunch of the aliens. You got it.
I love how Rey actually understood them all. It's like, wait, you understand? Oh, and then of course we have Finn who's like, you understood that?
I don't speak droid. Droidist.
But yeah, no, BB-8 was very well done. I love the arsenal he's got.
Yeah, a little shocker and
also I love the thumbs up. Mm-hmm. I love that thumbs up.
There were a lot of really funny moments.
He is a worthy successor to R2.
I love how fucking Finn, like John Boyega, was just really playing it up in some scenes, like, yeah, who's in charge now, Phasma? Okay, dial it back a bit, kid.
And let's point out that right there. There was, I'm guessing, a woman.
Oh yeah, Captain Phasma's a woman.
Okay.
Her actor, I've read interviews with her. I'm hoping that we get to see her face, because she's got quite an expressive face. I forget her name. I'm so terrible with real actor names.
So
it's character names I try to remember.
Give them credit that there was one female officer in the First Order, which shows that the First Order's just as stupid as the Imperium. Yeah,
they're still pretty racist and whatnot. But hey,
there were no aliens and one woman. Great, good job, guys.
I still was wishing somehow they'd insert Thrawn into the Stam canon somewhere.
They still could.
They still could.
Because after that clusterfuck, they could use. Well, it's been 35 years. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they go with forward. Because, it's obvious the first part, should they start episode 8 with her training, or should they just skip that section of her life and do the occasional flashback?
We don't need to pick up right where this film left off. It's not necessary.
I mean, we could do the flashbacks with her training with Luke just as well as... Like, we don't need the Yoda training section. We really don't.
We really do not.
We can do that jump from just like 4 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Or from 5 to 6 where, you know, months, if not years, have gone by and we're picking it up at the next major intersection kind of thing.
Yep.
In fact, that's really what I hope they do, because Mark Hamill looks really old there, and he doesn't... It's the beard and everything else that just ages him greatly.
Yeah, he looked a little bit like Ben Kenobi, really.
He also looked a little bit surprised there, especially when she held up the lightsaber, so... I still think there's something family-based going on there, but... Yeah, damn it, I want... I want 8 out.
This was a good film and gets me excited for Star Wars again. This film neither blew me away nor disappointed me. When I say didn't blow me away, I mean I'm not like super floored by the amazingness of the cinema. What I am impressed by is that Star Wars is relevant again with a good film. Finally, again, since Empire Strikes Back. And as much as you may not like Return of the Jedi, Return of the Jedi was still miles ahead of the prequels. Oh, for sure.
I mean,
no one will deny that.
I think Empire's the better movie, but I like Return of the Jedi more.
Sure.
The original version.
Oh yeah.
Not the special.
I'm okay with inserting Hayden Christensen.
I'm
not okay with taking out the yub.
I love that segment.
Yub.
I didn't like the whole universe celebrating and tearing down statues because that wouldn't have been happening.
And kind of contradicts with this film a little bit.
Very much so. And I mean, I thought the best changes to the original 3 movies was stuff like what they did with Bespin. And actually made Cloud City, have lots of windows, and you saw out, and it was actually showing that sort of stuff, whereas when he originally shot it, he didn't have the technology to do that. Changes like that are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Adding CG Jabba the Hutt into Part 1 was fucking lame. Changing it that, Greedo shot first, lame.
Which is terrible.
The explosion changes to the Death Star, fucking lame. It's just, for every one thing he did right, he did a dozen wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's reasons why people are going over the original Laserdisc and bringing it up to Blu-ray standards with effects and releasing it online. Because if Disney won't, though Disney's in rumors right now that they might actually do that, release the original cut, no special bullshit, on Blu-ray. Because there's a lot of hate against the special editions.
The original films stand up today, even with their effects. This was an amazing film to come out in 1977.
I mean, get rid of a couple of the wires you can see in the original cuts.
Some touch-ups.
Little touch-ups, but not George Lucas it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need. I mean, do you remember, and I'd actually forgotten this until I was reading an article on the special editions. Do you remember beginning of Return of the Jedi, the original scene when they showed Jabba the Hutt's throne room,
mm-hmm.
and the original music they had playing there and everything else, and then what they added to the special edition?
I don't recall.
They added this CG alien singing this really out-of-place song, and it was just wrong. I'd forgotten about it. I actually watched the scene. I'm like, yeah, there's a reason I forgot about this. It was awful. And yeah, I want my yub back.
Yub. Final rating for Star Wars The Force Awakens. How many planets does this movie destroy out of 5 planets?
I'm giving this a solid 4. I don't think it's worthy of a 5, but it's definitely above a 3.
I definitely think that this movie is a transitionary one. It does rely a lot on other materials to complete it, but at the same time, it is just so well shot and well acted and well told that I can't really hate it. Out of 5 planets to destroy with my Starkiller base, I give this movie a thumbs up. Out of a lighter.
Fair enough.
Sticking out of my gut because I am a droid, droid.
This is one that I'm willing to actually give it a normal rating. And
do you want to give it a 3 pie rating?
No. Just 4 out of 5. I am quite willing to give this one. Mm-hmm. It is a strong movie. The dialogue was not even comparable to the prequels.
It was. We should say that the prequels are not even comparable to this, really.
Okay, yeah. Like, the dialogue was written by people who could write.
And acted by... And directed masterfully.
Directed masterfully. The fact that they actually relied on practical effects was a boon to this movie.
The CG they did use was really well done.
Oh, the CG... I mean, okay, you know when there's CG, but at no point was it... oh God, is that CG? Kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My only complaint is I kind of wish I saw this movie in non-3D.
We did see it in 3D because we wanted to get the theater that had the reserved seating so we didn't have to fight off for... we didn't have to beat anyone off for seating, beat off so many people.
And the reason for that, it might have been that we were too close or to the front in the theater or something, but I noticed a number of the shots where they were using 3D for large objects like the Star Destroyer and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Just not so much fuzzy, but just I couldn't focus.
I thought the Star Destroyer 3D shot looked really good. The rest of the film, not really that great in 3D. I had heard differently, and I was disappointed to find that, no, the 3D just kind of sucked. To date, Avatar and How to Train Your Dragon are still the best 3D movies I've seen in 3D.
Well, Avatar is the only live-action movie that was actually shot for 3D. Not added after the fact.
Yep. But I mean, still, like, the 3D didn't take away from it. It's just that it was another film with 3D that wasn't really used that great.
Yeah.
I'm still disappointed to see shaky cam, although this was a lot less prevalent in this. I could follow most of what was going on.
Yes.
But it was still here, and I want this cinematic practice to die more than I want 3D to die. But otherwise, yeah, just spectacular film. And even though I did complain about the transitionary nature, the fact of the matter is that I am going to see episode 8, and I have seen all the past ones multiple times. So the fact that I get all the references does not hurt
bonus
at all. So, yeah, just too good. So shall we go to the voicemail box and see if anyone talked about Star Wars or other things? Meowth was asking if it had to be Star Wars related. I told her no, anything she liked.
Well, of course. Voicemail is always welcome for whatever topic they want.
Okay, so we got 2 voicemails from Meowth and 1 from Chris. So who do you want to hear first?
Let's take care of Meowth first.
Let's take care of Meowth.
Hey, Two Fat Guys Talk. It's Meowth 900 here. It's been a while. I tried watching that Yuki Yuna is a hero show, or Yuki Yuna Aru, whatever. I don't know, man. I didn't really dig it that much. Maybe it's because I watched the dub. But shut up, Dave. Shut up. I don't like to read and watch what's happening. I want to just listen and watch what's happening. Anyways, that show felt really cheesy. And I don't know. It would have been better if she died at the end. Because screw happy endings. I want to see people be miserable. Anyways, that's my thought on Yuki Yuna is a hero. I don't know how to pronounce Japanese names. So, why did you guys like that show? Curious. Why did you guys like Yuki Yuna as a hero?
The fuck?
Yeah, Dave, why the fuck do you gotta see everything in subs all the time? Why don't you think before you act?
I am the biggest proponent of dubbing. I will watch subtitles if dubs don't exist, but I like watching dubs.
I don't think so. I seem to remember, and I got a photographic memory that...
Which is a lie.
That you were like, oh, why we gotta watch this dub? Meh, meh, meh. You actually made that noise 3 times, and it was really weird. And clearly I'm backed up by Meowth here. If you want to see characters being miserable, keep watching. However...
obviously she saw to the end because she referenced the end.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, okay, it's not everyone's cup of tea, that's fine. I was really enamored by it, but I mean...
Yeah. If you want to be miserable, watch Madoka.
She's seen Madoka. I've sin her tweets. Meowth is familiar with Madoka.
Okay.
Yeah. And that makes me miserable, but in a different way.
Why did we like it? Because the characters were great. They were believable in what they were going through. They went through the whole gambit of...
I fucking hate you so much.
Why?
Nothing. Tell me what they went through the gambit through, Dave.
Well, now you've interrupted.
No, finish your fucking thought.
No, it was a good show. They went through all the different, well, now you've ruined my thought train.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, you did.
I liked Yuki Yuna wa Yushitaru because it was very character-driven. I loved each character's distinct personality. I liked how they meshed with each other. I liked how they played off of each other. I liked that they were all on the same side, that they had each other's back. I like how they worked well together as a team. I like how their bonds were tested by the terrible situation they were put in. I like that it really made each character think about what the others mean to them, what the world means to them in relation to their friends and family. It's
how bad the Taisha was.
How bad the Taisha was. There's a lot of plot holes in Yuki Yuna. There's a lot of the plot that's kind of like, what? But I'm more character-driven guy, and that was a very heavily character-driven show with characters I liked. Shrug.
So, what's the big deal with this Star Wars movie? Because a lot of people I know who hate going to the movie theaters. Because, I don't know, ticket prices, and people everywhere, and people eating food. I don't know. People hate the movie theaters, but I don't know, they're making an exception to go see Star Wars. So, what's the big deal with that? Is it nostalgia? Because I know those movies came out in like the 80s or something. Way before I was alive. So, what's the big deal with these freaking Star Wars films and everyone's going all nuts about it? Is it because of nostalgia?
Well, Star Wars is a big cultural cornerstone, right? Like, we as a society tend to know characters like Darth Vader intrinsically, and Han Solo intrinsically, and Luke Skywalker and whatnot. We just kind of, because it's permeated everywhere, and our parents have seen it, and our grandparents have seen it, and our whole family, they've seen Star Wars. It's just this common ground for a lot of people's fictional experience, right? So to hear that there was going to be an Episode 7 when there were supposed to be no more live-action films made of Star Wars was just shocking. I knew people I told that news to, and they're like, I gotta sit down a minute. And to hear that these were going to be movies set after the canonically latest live-action movie in the timeline, Return of the Jedi, was another shocker, because that was uncharted territory. It was charted in the expanded universe materials, but they are no longer part of the film canon. They are now part of the Legends line. So we are once again fresh. We are in uncharted territory. We don't know what's going to happen. Star Wars is just this super well-known thing. Everyone knows Star Wars. It's permeated so much of every facet of fiction, and very surprising for a sci-fi story to have done this. I should re-say that. It's more science fantasy. I used to be a big stickler on not calling it sci-fi. I've softened on that a bit too, even though it's not sci-fi really. But I mean, it's space opera. It's space fantasy. It has so many memorable characters and themes, and there's a lot about spirituality that permeates the original 3 films, about, about finding forgiveness in grace and in faith and in family, and a lot of very recognizable narrative themes that just apply to so much fiction. Star Wars is studied in screenwriting classes for a reason. The original film, despite being directed by George Lucas, who did a terrible job of the prequels, the original film is fantastic. It is the perfect hero's journey. It is it is a perfect film in terms of structure in so many ways. So this is like Gundam in Japan. It's just known everywhere, right? Like even in Japan, Star Wars is a big deal. It's too popular. It's like Final Fantasy VII. It's too popular, man.
Star Wars has gone across the globe. And yeah, there are some people who are not interested, have never seen a Star Wars movie, and that's okay.
Or who have and don't care.
Yeah. But Star Wars, some of us grew up on the original movies. I mean, I saw all 3 in theaters. And I'm not talking the re-releases. The original...
Well, you saw them when they were re-released in theaters at one point, because...
I also saw them then.
We were not alive when the first couple were released, and
yes, we were.
The first Star Wars...
First Star Wars came out in 79.
No, 77. Also, you were born in 79.
Yep.
So you were not watching Star Wars. It was not being beamed into the womb.
And I'm wrong.
77, right?
77. Empire Strikes Back, okay. 80.
Yep.
But the Star Wars films, yeah, I mean, the first Star Wars movie, Episode 4, was damn near perfect. Including a couple of the things that went wrong on set, which were awesome. We had to be watching for. But
there's also a lot to love in the design of the culture of Star Wars that permeates. Like, there are a lot of Asian influences in costume design and in directing in Star Wars that were not really prevalent in American cinema at the time. There's a lot of parallels we can draw between Star Wars and anime, period. Darth Vader's entire outfit was based upon the look of the samurai. That helmet was meant to be like a space samurai helmet. It's the Jedi robes were meant to invoke this kimono-like look. Like there's a ton of culture, of real world culture that goes into the design of these films that touches on multiple real world cultures, including some racism. Definitely some racism with species like the Ewoks and the Gungans representing native peoples, and a less than stellar view of native peoples, let's say. But they're there, for better or worse. But if you don't like Star Wars, don't bother. You don't gotta like something just because everyone else does.
Yeah. Hope we answered your question there, Meowth.
So this next one's from Chris Weston. He's someone that I've occasionally done Flashcasts with in the past. He's actually restarted up Flashcasts. He does some with me and some with others. The first ones should be coming out this month sometime. Yeah, let's hear his voicemail.
Hey Carlos, hey Dave, got some questions here I'd like to see you guys talk about. So the first question I have is kind of a crazy personal one, but I see things like Apple TV and Amazon's Fire Stick bundle that has the game controller to be a pretty big future in gaming. Right now we're living in kind of a crazy world where PC gaming's on the rise. There's Steam machines out, there's a Steam Link, mobile's bigger than ever, and I'm personally seeing those kind of devices to be getting quite bigger in the future. Something like the PlayStation TV failed, although I think that's less on the product itself and more on Sony's end of support and marketing. So I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you think things like the Apple TV and Amazon Fire Stick, Google Chromecast, they have all sorts of things now, are those going to be big things for gaming in the future? I'm basing a lot of this especially on Amazon trying to muscle their way in. I know they got those Killer Instinct developers, Double Helix, making a MOBA in the vein of Dota 2. So there are big tech companies who are interested in this space. And after that, my next question actually...
Let's start with question number 1.
Oh, you paused it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez. Okay, for a minute I thought that that the mail died. Okay, I'm like, uh-oh. Like, okay. Do you mind if I start this one?
Go ahead.
That Nintendo kind of wants to do something like this with the NX, and definitely there's the PlayStation TV and whatnot. Is it the future? It kind of is. Already you have originally the big backlash with the Xbox One is that Microsoft wanted it to be your media center and kind of wanted it to be that, like a home entertainment hub for games. They went about it completely the wrong way and killed a lot of goodwill with gamers by just being so bullheaded about it. But the idea is not wrong, even if the approach needed some tweaking with them. So yeah, I definitely think that is a big deal. Amazon...
I think it less needed tweaking and more somebody needed to walk into their boardroom and smack people with a couple of 2x4s.
Yeah, there needs to be some 2x4 smashing. Some hacksaw Jim Dugganing of a room. With Amazon, yeah, when they acquired Double Helix, that was big because Double Helix has proven they know what they're doing, making competitive games. Killer Instinct is wildly popular. Dave recently got an Xbox One, and no doubt he has picked up Killer Instinct. So
Never.
He can play it later. He's totally going to because it's free.
No.
And I'll do it when he's not looking.
No.
And like Double Helix making a MOBA, they obviously know how to make a competitive game. I'm not a MOBA guy, but I have no reason to doubt they won't make a good one. However, we have to talk about the systems of this ilk that have failed. As much as I like my little clamshell NVIDIA Shield, I like it. It has kind of succeeded despite its shortcomings, and even then it's still a very niche product. It's probably the most successful Android console, and even then still quite niche. The Ouya failed. Apple wants to kind of do this gaming thing on their things, and they certainly have the installed base for it. But you need a good controller and you need that support, and I don't think Apple cares, at least not at this point, especially since gaming is so big on iOS. Mobile games are fine. I'm not of the thought that mobile games are lesser games. I've never liked that attitude. I do think that the free-to-play games are kind of a scourge that hits mobile hard, but hits kind of everywhere these days. So I've played some pretty fine games on mobile. I've played some RPGs that have had some fantastic touch interfaces. And I've played Lazy Cash-ins by Square Enix, which we'll get to later in this podcast. But Dave has things to say about this, and they are, when you hear the insightful thing Dave's about to say, it will make your brain explode.
I think Amazon trying to get into the gaming market is kind of amusing because Amazon's kind of where HP was about 5 to 10 years ago. They're trying to grow into other markets, but they don't have a fucking clue how to do it. They're not bringing in intelligent people who can tell them to stop. As far as Apple gaming, I think that's going to fail much like their mobile phones. Even if they have Double Helix.
Oh, you mean Amazon gaming?
Did I say Apple?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, sorry.
I was like, whoa, Apple mobile phone.
Sorry.
Have you heard some news?
Did I? I started with Amazon and I threw an Apple, didn't I?
It's okay. I'm sure there are apples that grow in the Amazon.
Yeah, I meant everything in there I meant for Amazon. I think Amazon is going to end up selling Double Helix within 2 to 3 years. Because here's the thing about the Dota-like market. It's become saturated. People are sticking with their original Dotas because each successive version that comes out is doing one thing good, but another thing that they don't like. So we're finding a lot of people are keeping with the main ones and not getting into these new ones because they're not as good. I am not a fan of Dotas at all.
Do you hate that
MOBAs.
Do you hate that the real-time strategy genre kind of morphed into that?
Yes, I really fucking do. The fact that the days of like Command and Conquer,
Warcraft.
Warcraft. The fact that I'm stuck with StarCraft as the closest I can get to an actual strategy game sickens me, because there were good strategy games near the end there. You had Total Annihilation. You had...
Myth?
No.
I thought you liked Myth. I don't care. I just remember you playing it a bunch.
Myth was a good idea with bad execution.
Well, that was Bungie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That was Bungie. The one game I wanted to say there, the title is... I have it. I actually own it, so I can just go to my games.
Bring it up a Steam window. Oh, we're going to be talking about the Steam version of a game soon.
I know we're going to get there.
I'm already mad, but
I mean, the Command and Conquer started to get successively worse and worse as they started taking them more and more seriously. I mean, they were still doing the FMV system of having like actors get on there and be all cheesy, playing Kane or the global good guys and everything else, and it was always fun when you got past that stage and all of a sudden you'd get like and there you get like Mark Hamill up there acting like a bad guy.
Wing Commander 3!
Yeah, Wing Commander 3, but I mean, they played it for laughs. The actual game, sure, it got serious, but the videos were always just so ridiculous. It was awesome.
Dave's going to find the title of this RTS he's thinking of any day now.
But we've seen... I mentioned Total Annihilation, and the title I was looking for was Supreme Commander, by the way.
Yes.
I've already passed... I haven't gone to S on the screen yet, but I just remembered that. But we've seen companies that did like Total Annihilation, which was the precursor to games like Supreme Commander. And they released Planetary Annihilation Kickstarter. And they started with an idea that we were all just like, oh, fuck yes, this is going to be awesome. And like many Kickstarted ideas, it bloated. They went a completely different direction part way. And the rest is just sitting here like, but what happened to my Total Annihilation game? I wanted that, not this thing you made. Kind of thing. Supreme Commander is where I was praying that frickin' StarCraft would go. Because the number one thing I hated about StarCraft and Warcraft is how much you were zoomed into the fucking screen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In Supreme Commander, I can zoom the fuck out all the way to the point that my screen becomes the giant mini-map. Which was awesome for having dual screen, by the way, because your second screen was a permanent mini-map over there. It was awesome!
What franchise... Actually, I'll finish your thought, because this is a complex and stupid question that I'm going to ask.
But to get back to Chris's actual question, it's Apple is not taking the mobile...
Did you mean Amazon or Apple this time?
I'm talking Apple.
Okay, Apple it is.
Now on to
now
Apple.
We're on to Apple.
We're on the other A
On
word.
to the Apple.
Apple's not taking mobile gaming seriously yet. And the reason why I say that is their games, even the ones that are being made for the Apple TV, specifically, have to be able to be played on your iPhone and have to have touch controls. They can't make it just for the controller yet. And until Apple is willing to say, okay, we're willing to actually have a break in our group so that those that only have the Apple TV are only going to be able to play these games, I'm not going to be able to take it seriously, and a lot of developers aren't going to, because when you build a game, you have to build it around a control scheme, and the last thing you want to do is have to build it around two different control schemes.
I don't know. I think if I made a 2D platformer for the controller, I would just shoehorn in a crappy little iPhone controller scheme you could use.
No.
And then,
Bad Carlos.
And, well, hang on. And then you got your bases covered. Pick the one you want.
No.
And we meet Apple's requirement, and you can still just throw your phone away and use a controller, and you're done.
And that's the problem. You shouldn't have to shoehorn stuff. If I want to make a game just for the Apple TV that uses the controller, I should be able to. But Apple's like, no, you can't do that.
There's a difference between saying you have to have an iPhone control scheme and saying that all your games need to control through the iPhone. This is not like when Nintendo was shoehorning in a Wiimote nunchuck scheme into games that had no business having it. When it was an option, that's not a problem.
Oh, I thought you were going to bring up when they were trying to force you to have multiple Game Boy Advances.
Yeah, when it's when you have the option to play with exotic controls, and perhaps that's how you want to play it, that's fine. When they force you to do it, that's different. And if Apple's requirement is, well, one of your control schemes has to use the iPhone in some way, fine. Make a virtual controller mode for the iPhone if that's what you want to. If that meets the requirement.
I don't want to.
As a dev, it'll take you. It will take you relatively no time at all to meet this requirement.
All I'm saying is, I want to make a game that just uses the controller.
Okay, then throw in a throwaway control scheme for the phone. And people who call and make touch-ups to that, but recommend the controller to them. You still meet their requirement. If they're not forcing you to do it.
I know it meets the requirement, but again, if Apple wants to actually seriously do gaming on the Apple TV, and again, I'm highlighting Apple TV here, they've got to get their minds around the fact that developers may just want to develop with its hardware in mind and its specs. Not that, the iPhone 7 will come out next year and they might have to tweak their game. I'm building it for the Apple TV. That's it. Mm-hmm. Not your phone. We're done.
Okay, fair enough.
It's like trying to tell a person that your game has to use the Wii
remote.
Well, the Wii. No, I was actually going to talk about the main controller of the Wii U, the gamepad.
Yeah.
That it has to. You can't use your TV.
Mm-hmm.
No, I want to use my TV.
I hear you.
But
I was gonna ask a stupid question like, what franchise do you think would be? What is the least likely franchise you would make an RTS? You could make an RTS out of, and how would you have made it one?
Least likely.
Yes. I will begin.
Go ahead.
Sailor Moon, the RTS.
I can totally do that.
And basically how it works is your skill tree is that you kill Tuxedo Mask.
Fuck.
And then you win the game.
Well, if we're going to go down the lines of stupidity, I choose Fable. And the entire game...
So the easiest possible genre to make one out of?
And the entire game is simply you kicking the living fuck out of its creator.
You could do a Mario RTS, couldn't you?
Why not?
Just make various Toad troops.
Why? You'd have,
And then the Bowser line with all his enemies. Oh my god, that would be the real reason to play it.
Even for Sailor Moon. It would be very easy to make an RTS out of Sailor Moon.
There's not really an army on their side.
You've got a wide variety of enemy units.
The enemies do.
And
the heroes don't.
As far as what? You've got 10 plus scouts, Tuxedo Mask, and the two cats.
Yeah, all unique that you can't make more of.
Oh, gee, that's ever stopped a person in an RTS. We're dealing with clones now. Oh, look, I'm done.
I suppose you could make a game where the good side is a small squad and the bad side plays an army RTS.
It's called Warcraft.
That might be fascinating to play. Where one side is a party and the other side is an army. That might be cool.
In fact, that was the way that a lot of RTSs were going. Command and Conquer had stages like that. Supreme Commander had that. Frickin' Warcraft 3, half their levels were hero levels, which I despised.
When they first showed Warcraft 3, they talked about it as being more of an RPG where yeah, you have a small army with you, but it's a squad. And it was almost going to be something like Final Fantasy Tactics-ish, but in real time.
Mm-hmm.
When I first saw previews of that, I was really salivating at that. I was like, I kind of want to play this game. And then they buckled and just made it a more traditional RTS, although with hero units. And that's kind of when I was like, I'm not RTS guy.
I am not a fan of hero units.
In an RTS, I see why you would hate them. I think if you're doing something smaller and more intimate, they have a purpose.
Like, for example, Warhammer. Warhammer 1 was very much your standard RTS where, yeah, occasionally you'd have, your commanding unit who you'd go into battle with all your other units. But, I mean, you could make an army and it was a large-scale freaking battle. It was awesome. Then, in number 2, you made a couple small little units. And it was like, guys, where's my large-scale fucking battle here? What, you just decided to make this... it wasn't an easy game, but it was nowhere near as fun, because it's fun to zoom in and have, like, a couple hundred guys just going frickin' at it. That was awesome. And then this hero unit shit started up with Warcraft 3, and everybody's doing small little intimate units that, one of your little peon guys die, you can zoom one down to fill out the unit. That's not what I want. I want frickin' siege tanks, and I want fucking blood.
You want siege tanks and blood.
Yes,
These are your 2 requirements for your RTS game.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
I get the gist of what you're saying. You want more large scale. And that's why it might be cool to see a game where one side is the large scale army and the other side isn't, but their units are stronger. That might be an interesting experiment. We should probably someday get back to Chris's second half of his voicemail. Eh?
Yes. Sorry, Chris, but you know what you're getting into when you listen to us. Let's hear the second part.
And after that, my next question actually concerns the Final Fantasy VII Remake that's coming out. Square Enix has been pretty good about making sure they're working on it correctly. The trailers look good. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Final Fantasy VII, even though it's one of the very few Final Fantasies I've ever finished to completion, I just liked other Final Fantasies more so. But hey, this one is in time for a remake. And that is a problem for me because I always viewed the mythical Final Fantasy VII Remake as the last-ditch effort, the trump card for Square Enix when things would get bad if they had to re-earn consumer goodwill, and especially if they need a hit on their hands, they would simply just double dip back on Final Fantasy VII, give it a fresh coat of paint, and that would be that. The actual concept of the remake, for me, feels very desperate, especially since Final Fantasy XIII trilogy has bombed as much as it has, and Final Fantasy XIV was a train wreck, and they have now a Final Fantasy committee to protect the brand. So how do you guys view this remake? I personally see it as a kind of desperate ploy to re-earn consumer goodwill and everything I stated before, especially given how aggressively they're pushing this, right? We got Cloud and Smash now. What's that about? And that's it for me. You guys keep on keeping on.
Are you playing his voicemail in Winamp?
Yes. I had to download it. It wasn't playing in the browser.
We had to amplify your voice, clearly, using Winamp's special features to get the most out of that voicemail. You want to take first crack at this one?
Yeah, sure. I definitely understand the viewpoint that, and Square kind of fed into this as well, saying that they weren't going to go back to Final Fantasy VII until they were kind of done. Now, it's taken them forever to get 15 out. And maybe Square does need an influx of cash, which is why they're doing Final Fantasy VII as a multi-part system, which we're still not sure of how much they're going to try and do a cash grab for. It's going to be 3 parts, 7 parts. It'll be $60 per part. We don't have enough information to get properly upset at this point. Yes, Final Fantasy XIV was a god-awful wreck originally, but having played it for an entire month straight, really hardcore, it's a WoW clone.
It is a WoW clone.
But it is a well-done WoW clone.
I tried it for a bit. It's really good now.
Yeah.
Now it's fun. Now I'm like, wow, I wish this was originally what FF11 was.
Yes. My only problem with it, and the reason I had to put it aside, is I am a big crafter.
And you were not a fan of the crafting system.
Well, it's not just that I wasn't a fan of the crafting system. It's that the crafting system takes too fucking long to craft stuff right. To get the experience and everything else, you have to do crafting the right way. And I found that I was watching The Walking Dead on half of my screen while I was crafting, and realized that maybe this isn't the game for me. So, yeah, no, good job on Final Fantasy XIV. It took you 2.5 years to get there, but good job.
I do admire that they were willing to admit they got it wrong and fix it.
Is big.
Which is so rare for big companies, let alone Square.
Yeah.
I never foresee them doing that again, though.
We'll see. I mean, Square is starting to change. Like,
Sorry. I have to laugh at that.
Some of the higher level executives are starting to actually die off, and new blood is coming in.
This is what has to happen. Finally, some of the people in charge at Square are dying, finally. We can get some change going on around here.
New blood. Anyway, putting that aside, 13 was a train wreck. And everybody quite rightly pointed and said, what the fuck?
Except for major reviewers and a surprising amount of fans, but go on.
Yeah, it still sold way too well. I tried to look up sales figures, and actually they stopped giving out sales numbers in 2011.
That's funny.
Well, it's got 2009 here for 13, and it sold 4.5 million on PS3 and 1.9 million on 360. That's not bad. They made their money back. 13.2 was a much better job. And then 13.3, they kind of fucked it back up again. But that was more because of the system they went to versus the actual game. Haven't played it myself, just seen it played, so I'll leave it there. But 7 holds this mythological place of the best Final Fantasy, largely because for a lot of people it was their first Final Fantasy. It was the first 3D Final Fantasy. It was the first Final Fantasy RPG that was majorly on TV. It was like, holy crap, look at what we can do now here on PlayStation 1. And, here's the second coming. So I get it. But does it mean the downfall of the company? No. They just realized when they tried to release Final Fantasy VII, the original, back on PS4 and PC, that people weren't that interested in the nostalgic factor of playing the old version. It's painful to play the original version, even if you use the fan mods, which update the graphics greatly. I think I made it to the end of the first dungeon. I'm like, yep, okay, that was nostalgic. Moving on.
I think it is a desperate ploy by Square. I think this is them going, yeah, we need our money, and everyone likes FF7. I've always said it. I don't hate... Not always. I've probably said I've hated
yeah,
FF7
you did.
in the past. I don't hate FF7. I really don't. I just think it's so mind-numbingly overrated.
Mm-hmm.
But, look, this remake looks fine. The way they're making the remake, it had to be multi-part. There was no way it wasn't going to be. The way they're making it.
Or else it would have taken 10 years.
They're putting too much effort into the assets, into the design, into the environments. And this is my problem. Why are they doing that? Where's FF7 2? That's not a big deal as well? It has to be a remake? Like, why don't you give this kind of remake to the game that really needs it and that is popular everywhere except Japan, so which means it's money. FF6.
I'm just going to interrupt you there for a second. We've used that one a number of times about how FF6 is not popular in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that was a lie.
Are you talking about the one guy from Square who said that it sold better in Japan initially than elsewhere?
I've read it in a couple places that actually did better in Japan.
Oh, sure. It initially sold better there, but its lasting impact has been outside of Japan. In Japan, it's a footnote. Outside of Japan, it's seen as one of Square's finest titles. I think it's because Hironobu Shinoguo, name completely messed up. He was a big fan of... there was a lot of Western storytelling elements in FF6 that he was a fan of, and I think that's why it kind of resonates with a lot of people here, more so than it did in Japan, where it was kind of a footnote. The Ted Woolsey translation probably helped because he added a lot of character to Kefka that Square Japan very nicely, very, very subtly just stole and made a part of Kefka when it wasn't part of his character originally, the whole mad clown aspect of it. I mean...
That's why localization made a bunch of games better.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, it's maddening that FF6's popularity is never acknowledged, whereas Final Fantasy IV, which is far from the worst Final Fantasy, and certainly a fine game, is kind of the runner-up Final Fantasy in Japan. It's so popular it got a sequel. A terrible, terrible sequel. What were we talking about? Right. Is FF7 Remake a desperate cash grab? I think it is, for sure.
See, I don't think it is, because quite frankly, there are other properties they could have actually touched on again that would have gotten them quick cash as well. I mean, we're seeing a current release of all the old Final Fantasy games on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never thought that we would get a really shitty port of Final Fantasy VI on Steam. But the very fact that they're doing that is showing that they realize that, yes, they need money.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't do it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But it also reaches a lot more people. Japan's actually right now going through a big realization that the Steam market makes them money.
Mm-hmm.
Releasing a game on Steam is a money-making proposition. So we're seeing games out of Japan releasing on Steam pretty quick now.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a good thing.
I won't be shocked if FF15 has a PC version.
It's going to.
For sure.
It's going to.
So... did you have more to say about Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Well, I haven't played, not so much about 7. I think we can look at 7 as, or the reason they chose 7, from a different aspect as well. Rebooting or remaking 7 gives them the opportunity to...
retcon the stupid Gact character?
That too. They can basically, at this point... they'll keep the main storyline events the same. Eris is going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Though, I mean, they could do what I wish George Lucas had done, and they could totally change aspects. Like, Eris may not die.
I could set up Tifa and Yuffie together.
Sure, why not? But they have the opportunity...
Day one buy, if I can do that.
They have the opportunity now to enhance the world so that they can make a Final Fantasy VII 2 that isn't Dirge of Cerberus, that isn't, was it Crisis Core?
You're talking about the one with Zack?
Yeah.
Yeah, Crisis Core.
That isn't those games, and actually go on and make a Final Fantasy VII 2, Final Fantasy VII 3, going along with the world. They can ignore everything that happened before.
I think it would be cool if in Final Fantasy VII Remake we see alternate what-if timelines. What if Cloud was the one taken over by Jenova and Sephiroth is the one who barely escaped with his life?
You know,
That'd
something?
kind of be an interesting side story.
I would... But they do that as a Final Fantasy VII 2. Much like they did 13-2. It's exactly what they did.
Time travel?
13-2 was basically what I want to see in a Chrono Trigger 2. In that you explored alternate timelines. Could be the same time period. But shit went different. And that was awesome to see. 13-2 was the best Final Fantasy idea they've had in years. So a 7-2 in that style? Fuck yes.
Sure.
Just don't end 7 the way that 7 ended the first time or 13 ended, please. On to Final Fantasy VI, Carlos. So I hope that answered a little bit of your question there, Chris. I know we ramble on go into alternate topics here and there, but I hope that answered it. And now, Carlos, on the Final Fantasy VI port on Steam.
Dave.
Carlos.
I have a question for you. Let's say you are playing a video game on your personal computer.
Okay.
You are playing through the game and you realize, you know what? I don't like the way these buttons are mapped.
Yep.
What do you do?
I get well, number one, why are you playing on your keyboard? It's called a gamepad.
Okay, asshole. I said a game. It could be any game. What do? You remap. Hell, you know what? You're playing a game.
Your controls.
You realize the keyboard ain't working for you. What do?
You remap your controls.
Right. You hit escape. You pick an option. You set it. You quickly try it out back in the game. You go on your fucking merry way.
Absolutely.
Right? Wrong. You stop the game. Close it out completely.
Yeah.
And you have to reload a special launcher because this is the mobile version of the game ported over to Steam. And then you use the launcher to configure your controls and then reload the whole game.
Yay!
Did you unplug your gamepad by accident when you were playing?
Yeah.
Good news, Dave. You get to restart that shit all over again. I sure hope that you didn't need to save, because you can't. Sure hope you weren't playing on, say, your wireless Xbox One controller, because if it went to sleep, you done fucked. That is not even the biggest problem in this garbage cash-in port that is Final Fantasy VI on Steam.
Personally, I don't like the sprites.
The sprites are of questionable quality. The background and spell effects redraws are of questionable quality. The enemy art is fantastic. The character portraits are fantastic. The rest is a mixed bag. If that was the biggest problem, whatever.
Yeah.
When the game launched, it had always online DRM. That has since been patched out because I suspect Square got firebombed. That has been, however, good on them. They patched that out. It now
That's
does
ridiculous.
not require you to be online to play the game. If you map your movement to any key that inputs a letter or number, you're never going to be able to name your character the default name because you need to use those arrow keys to move over to accept, and they will at the same time input an arrow. Input a character.
So wait, I can't map 2 buttons to the same input?
Correct. You can map 1 button to each input.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
That's right. You think you could solve this by putting function 2 onto the arrow keys? Nope. I had to reload my save because I could not name Terra anything other than Terra D, Terra W, Terra S, or Terra A.
When you pressed W, A, S, or D, did the cursor actually move?
Yeah. And it input the letter at the same time.
So what stopped you from going and just backspacing one of those letters?
Because then when I hit down to go to confirm, to take the cursor off default and confirm, it would input whatever letter I had on down, which was S. If I backspaced again and then hit my accept key, which I had set to period to kind of emulate the Super Nintendo controller a bit, it input a period. So her name was Terra Dot.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I'm gonna... What I'm about to say here is true. I have worked in QA, okay? I've done QA work. If I let that through, I'd be fired. Oh, what else?
Hang on. You know, I find it hilarious in this case. I mean, normally, when you're emulating what's basically a updated SNES game, and you're using a keypad like that, usually the actual letters don't enter in anything because those letters or those keys on your keyboard are basically dead to the software. I find it hilarious they actually gave it keyboard support for typing in names.
Yep.
But yet didn't think that you'd actually go to WASD.
Correct.
Did one thing right and one thing wrong. Awesome.
Let's talk about the garbage interface. So, the default method for showing time bars in combat is to have each character's command window rise from the bottom, then it reaches a certain point, and it goes ding, and then you can enter command.
Yes.
There is one benefit to this, and I actually do like this about this port. This means that every character's menu displays in a different part of the screen, which means that much like Chrono Trigger, you can just tap left or right to quickly go to someone else's menu.
Okay.
So that lets you more quickly switch between characters than the alternative. However, it is ugly as sin because it is still using the big mobile buttons that sucked on mobile and suck even more here. Not all the commands fit in that window, so there's ugly fucking out of place scroll bars on these UI elements. You can change to a different interface wherein it shows a more traditional filling up time bar. Then when it's full, it shows a window of that character with all their commands. But you have to use the old method of switching between them, which was what this game maps as the X button to switch between them, which is slower. I actually I almost like the new interface, but it is ugly as sin and terrible to look at. It's a big eyesore in the end, and still kind of functionally stupid. There's holdovers from mobile, like the fast forward button in combat. There's still a big ugly fast forward icon on the top left corner. There's a button you map that you can tap to start fast forwarding in combat, but it's like, if this obviously wasn't a mobile port, it is now. Like,
stupid.
Oh yeah, dumb. I haven't encountered any game-breaking bugs, but others have, wherein they've said that the game has crashed when a controller has lost connection to USB, or through various other circumstances like transitioning between screens. I haven't encountered that. I fully believe that these are problems. I've been playing this on my laptop, and in the config menu, switching between the window themes, it takes like 4 or 5 seconds to load each theme. Really kind of weird. Everything about this port it screams lazy. I'm not a graphics whore at all, and I do not give one fucking damn if something is at 30 or 60 frames per second or at a certain resolution, as long as it looks good enough and I can play it well. However, this game's resolution is fucking weird at certain resolution settings. And when you do have it at a resolution setting that's not proper, it stretches the game in an ugly, ugly way instead of properly letterboxing it, because the mobile resolution isn't quite the same, right? The game looks like an eyesore. It is functionally bereft of already. Final Fantasy VI is already a buggy game, and this version has stability problems, design issues, issues with control scheme. Most of the time it looks ugly as sin. When you see the Bioblast spell effect, you might laugh. And yet some of the other spell effects look okay. It's just so inconsistent and overall garbage.
Yeah.
The only benefits it has over, say, the Game Boy Advance port, which is using the new translation and whatnot, is that the Game Boy Advance version has this weird slowdown in combat and an inferior sound chip, so that the soundtrack isn't as good. The soundtrack in this game is the SNES original, and it sounds beautiful. And all the spell effects play in real time. Or not in real time, they play at the proper speed, right? So, that said, this is a lazy, lazy port. Sold for $15, which was the same amount it cost on mobile, for basically just a mobile port. If you go to Steam, you'll see that it is mostly positive reviews, and that those mostly positive reviews are garbage. If you go look at them, they have much fewer helpful clicks than the negative ones. And most of them are saying, ignore the negative reviews. This is the best version of FF6. It's just fucking sycophantic fucking zealots defending their favorite game and being blind to all kinds of criticism towards it. If you go look at the negative reviews, you will see they are much more voted on.
Detailed.
Much more detailed, many more helpful clicks on them. And some of them have lower hour counts because people bought it and said, I returned this. This is garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to play through this game, and my brother and I, and possibly Kiki, are planning to do a tandem playthrough of it. Partly so we can just badmouth the shit out of Square as we play it.
Mm-hmm.
Another big thing that's missing. This wasn't a big deal to some people. It was to me, because I was kind of hoping to play this multiplayer. There's no local co-op in it, like there was in the original FF6. Very little known feature, but it's not there. This is kind of funny, since one guy asked on the Steam forums, hey, since this is obviously a cache-in using the mobile interface, can I use my mouse on it? It probably would have worked better on the mouse. No. Sabin's Blitz inputs need to be put in super slowly. In addition, some of them got harder in the dumbest ways. Suplex is now up right, up left, down up. That's almost a geese raging storm. That is almost the pretzel motion you need to do that ridiculous fucking move.
Mm-hmm. That's retarded.
It's the worst. It is horrible. Final Fantasy VI is my favorite Final Fantasy, and one of my favorite RPGs, period. These days, I kind of hover between it and Phantasy Star 4 as the best 16-bit one. Lately, I've been just have this huge Phantasy Star 4 appreciation. But I mean, it is infuriating. Like, I was talking to you as we were going to Star Wars earlier about how I kind of get what Spoonie feels when he throws Ultima 9 at a wall. That seemed like a genuine moment in that review of Ultima 9 for him, where he's just like talking candidly about what the game series meant to him, then hucks the game at the wall because it was ruined by greed.
Yeah.
And when I first saw that review, I'm like, I kind of see where he's going with this, but isn't he taking this too far? No, I get it. I get you now, Spoonie. Betrayal. This is fucking betrayal. It is horrible.
Now you gotta watch that video again.
You have shared access to my Steam library. Go try this garbage port out. You tell me what you think.
Sure. I'm already not... From the screenshots I've seen, I'm not a fan of the sprites. I love the original sprites.
I would have been fine with like, these sprites were done by the original sprite designer. It's just that the way they were cleaned up and anti-aliased makes them look like... It just makes them look terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people do their versions of scaling the sprites, and
oh yeah,
and they look a lot better even with these looks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just horrible to look at. In positive Final Fantasy news, I finally went and played through the whole Final Fantasy XV demo again, since you told me it was patched a bunch. Now, yeah, apparently there was some bug fixing done. A lot of the combat has not changed since before the patch.
Did you go outside of the area?
No. That's my next step I'm going to do in the demo. Despite the fact that combat hasn't changed, I'm not sure what has changed with me, but this time I kind of got it, and I kind of gelled with it, and I had a lot more fun this time.
Good.
And now I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 15. I got a really good appreciation for how good the voice work is, and how a lot of the in-combat banter is, and it's really mostly solid. There's still some things I dislike, even though I like these 4 characters. I wish they weren't all dudes.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to make an all-gender party, make it all women, man. The one important woman that you meet is Cindy, who is Sid's daughter, who's fixing your car. And when you meet her, she is wearing a rather revealing outfit, and she's a lovely freckled lass, and the camera is seriously just having its fucking way with her. It's kind of gross. It appealed to my primal sensibilities, but at the same time, it's kind of like, wow, really? Your party's all guys, the first major girl, and the camera's basically humping her? Like, holy fuck. There's some funny moments playing this demo. Like, you're in the wilds hunting the behemoth, and you're running along this open world, and all of a sudden, is that a fucking trailer? And I'm going up to it, it's like, it's a fucking... And we're in a fucking, like, gift shop. And there are tourists there. I thought I was in the wilds. And there's tourists, and there's a gift shop, and I go to the gift shop, and I buy a few potions, a few antidotes, and then I'm like, what the shit? So I'm running a bit further, and I'm like, there's a highway here? And this is like a real highway. Like, the car stopped and beeped at me because I was in the fucking way. And I'm like, what the shit? I thought I was in the fantasy wilds hunting the behemoth. There's a segment where an enemy craft goes above you and drops Magitech soldiers on you.
Uh-huh.
They're literally called Magitech soldiers, although they're not the mechas. They're more like brainwashed cyber soldiers this time.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, okay, the fantasy of this world's cool. Gas station and trailer. Oh, the gas station. So you go through the cave, you get Rama the summon, you have to use Rama to beat the behemoth. Rama is fucking god in this game. Like, you summon him, he grabs you in his mighty hand, and he is humongous. He smites the ground. It does 99999.
Wow.
5 nines damage to everything. And it actually has environment damage all over, like the trees and grass are all scorched. It recovers after a bit, but for a while, like, it looks like Rama just firebombed the fucking, like, lightning bombed the thing.
I haven't had a chance to play it.
You beat the behemoth, you get its horn, because the whole mission of this demo is get the horn, sell it for money to pay Cindy to fix your car.
Mm-hmm.
And with this horn, I went to this gas station, again, total modern gas station in the middle of the wilds. I go into the convenience store with the sliding door, and I, with this buying and selling interface, sell the fucking part-timer behind the cash register, the behemoth horn, for 25,000 gil. And all I can think of is, hey kid, are you authorized to give me this money for this horn? Shouldn't I be taking this to, like some kind of hunter's guild?
Collector.
No, I'm selling the horn at a gas station, Dave. Fortunately, that's the very same gas station my car's at. I had a lot of fun with Final Fantasy XV, and now I'm looking forward to it again.
Let's talk about...
When it eventually comes out.
Yeah. Sometime this year.
Yeah.
Sorry, next year. So, I have an Xbox One now.
You do? I see it. It's very beautiful. It's a giant box. You could kill
It's a giant box.
It's a box.
And the setup went very easy. And then I ended up in the interface. I want to find the person who made this UI and beat them to a bloody pulp. Because this interface is fucking awful.
Compared to the PlayStation 4s.
Compared to the Xbox 360s.
The new Xbox 360s or the original Blade system?
I'm talking the most recent UI update for the Xbox 360.
So the one that makes it basically the Xbox One?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
It seems pretty similar to me. That whole Windows 8, Windows 10, everything is a square motif.
The 360 didn't go that far.
No, 360, everything's a square.
I have my 360 plugged in and working.
So do I. Everything's a square in it. That's Microsoft's thing now. Squares. Clean squares.
I can navigate the 360 one, no problem.
Sure.
As part of this, why don't I show you this interface and you can laugh with me?
Okay, show me. Folks, we are booting up Dave's Xbox One, which he will be downloading Killer Instinct on, and we will be playing against each other using the whatever free character is available.
Oh, shit.
Dave thinks he has a choice in the matter. He can't keep his guard up forever, folks. Someday he will lower it, and I will begin the download.
So it does take a little bit longer to boot up than my PS4.
Okay, so it looks a lot like Windows 10
Okay,
right now.
it looks a lot like Windows 10, but...
Okay.
Okay, I want to go and I want to play a game that I have downloaded.
So, for our listeners who can't see this, the home screen, it's got your login on the top left, a few icons on the left there, and some big Windows clean squares with
advertisements,
with ads and games and other functions, as well as your controller battery and a clock on the top right.
Now, what would you think I would do to get to my games?
Wow, on this screen?
What should I hit right now to go to my games?
Down on the D-pad?
Okay.
Okay, get there faster. This guide is the quickest route to your friends, parties, messages, and more. From home, move left to see the guide. Okay, move left. Okay, that didn't work.
Can't get there from here.
Go up, left.
Okay.
Okay.
Friends.
Uh-huh.
Parties. Messages.
Uh-huh.
Notifications.
Uh-huh.
And settings.
Right.
And snap an app.
So you can put game apps onto your Snap, but you don't have any here right now. However, what? Okay, press right.
So, press right.
Okay.
My first idea here is...
Hang on, I want to figure this out.
Okay.
Okay. Get down. Hit down again.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, it's hidden out of view.
You've used Windows 10, though.
Yeah, but Windows 10 is easier than this. I have it on my laptop right now.
Now, if anybody listening to us hasn't used an Xbox 360, yes, you would start on a home screen, but you would press over twice and you'd be on your games.
Right.
In here, community, one guide, and look at this. I'm going to go to the store.
Hang on a minute.
Store, which then automatically opens up games, but these aren't your games. This is the store's games.
Hey, go back to that one guide a second. Okay, why is there a Mario app channel?
Made videos?
Oh,
YouTube
gaming. Okay. Sorry, for a minute I thought I was like, has there been some news from Nintendo?
But this is what got me. There's no... I go over to the store frame here. It opens up the store with games, apps, movies, and music. In no point on the top stuff is your games or applications.
Yeah,
part of it.
Instead of this giant see what is new on Xbox One window, it should be the thing that's on the bottom of the screen, which is My Games and Apps. I have to press
down a whole bunch of times to get to My Games, TV, Skype, etc. So finding that was a mission inside itself.
Wow.
And there is no fucking help anywhere.
Huh.
So, yeah. You go to My Games and App. This is the window that should come up automatically.
Yeah, this appears to be a very easy to read window of all your games and apps.
Also,
and a quick overview of your storage.
Why in the fuck are Microsoft codes still 25 characters? Steam, a global PC company, can get away with 12 characters. Why the fuck are Microsoft's 25? And they're scratch cards still.
Dave, you clearly underestimate the power of the scratch card. Have you ever tried sniffing a scratch card? They don't smell very good.
So anyway, I was able to download it easily. The system updated right when I turned it on. Wouldn't even put me into the interface until it updated.
Mm-hmm.
And took my accounts and as far as getting the system booted up and getting things going, I have no complaints. My complaint comes down to, again, how intuitive the interface is. It's like when I booted up my roommate's laptop using Windows 8.0 for the first time. It's like, how the fuck do I get anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
8.0 was the worst setup interface I've ever run into. I shouldn't have to bring up my Windows 7 laptop and Google how to navigate Windows 8.
Yep.
As an IT professional.
Yeah, it's trash.
How's 10?
Oh, Windows 10 is great.
Okay.
I didn't bring my laptop though, sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
I bought my laptop from a Linux provider and they were very helpful in giving me all the drivers I needed to run Windows 10, which I find super ironic. It's a great vendor. Probably not for the reason they wanted me to think so, though.
500 gig hard drive for the Xbox Ones.
Mm-hmm.
You can use 380 of it.
What?
Yeah.
It's taking... What bloated... Windows 10 doesn't take up that much. What's using 120 gigs?
The operating system.
This storage garbage has gotten out of hand. Games used to fit on floppies. What are we doing?
Okay, let's leave the optimization topic for another day. But things have gotten a little bit bigger.
It's out of hand, man. The bloat... That Final Fantasy VI Steam port I was talking about, you know how big it is? It is damn
100
well...
meg?
It is nearly a gig.
Really?
Yeah. Nearly a fucking gigabyte.
The extra, was it a gig on iOS?
I sure hope not.
I gotta look that up now, because that
doesn't sound right, does it?
that means the art assets must not be
Compressed?
compressed at all. To be a gig?
Hey, you can just see it on my library. You still got your Steam open?
I'm just looking at iOS size. $514 meg.
Wow. That is ridiculous.
Not really. I've got a couple games that have been that size because of the size of the world / graphics that it's working with.
I suppose.
I mean, it's not that unknown, but I will give a shout out to Microsoft for their backwards compatibility that's already gone live.
Yep, I see that here.
There's some games I'm still surprised are not compatible. Games like Crackdown, which I really wanted to be, even though I no longer have a copy because a friend moved.
Mm-hmm.
Took it with her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I fired this up and it already has ready to install for all my Xbox Live Arcade games that are... Oh, and the free ones I get now for having a year's subscription to Gold.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool.
Free games. I'm glad Sony started that trend.
I will say it's kind of stupid how you have to get access to those free games. They're not easy. And Microsoft's online store on the web sucks.
It's always sucks.
Period.
It's only done one good thing once, and that's let me queue a bunch of stuff before I get home.
So yeah, that's my current... Oh, and one last thing to bitch at Microsoft for. The fucking controls still do not come with battery packs. They come with fucking batteries. And you're expected to go in here buy the planned charge kit or a third party.
When Nintendo's outdone you in this department, something's wrong, man.
Yeah. When I open up the controller and I realized there was two batteries there, I'm like, seriously? Is this 2004?
When Nintendo Pro controllers not only have battery packs but last for 5 years on a charge,
yeah,
you know you done goofed, Microsoft.
You know what doesn't last for a long time from a Wii U? The main...
The gamepad itself dries up in 2 hours.
Yeah, it is just like, really?
I'll be playing a little bit and I'm like, Red? What the...
Yeah, I was surprised at how quickly it dies. Which is probably why they put out the Pro controllers. But yeah, so now I'm going to have to go and buy a third-party battery pack for both. For both controllers. It's just like, really, guys? We're still doing... Oh, it also doesn't come with a microphone.
Removing value.
It's like, okay, Microsoft... what are you doing?
I didn't talk to strangers a lot, admittedly, because I can't stand people. But I certainly like to use it to talk to people I did know.
Yeah.
And occasionally, if I'm in a bad mood, I might say terrible things about a stranger's mother. But only when they deserve it.
Yeah, they even have the charge plug here and everything.
Terrible.
So, yeah, I was very surprised they did that. Otherwise, though, I mean... All the games are releasing for free on Gold, even for the 360, are now compatible with the Xbox One.
That's
so
awesome.
I don't even have to, with any of the new games, fire up my 360, even though I got it working again.
Cool. Yeah. Xbox One? More thoughts on Xbox One?
Oh, the Xbox One Elite controller, don't make me laugh.
I haven't tried it yet.
Nor will you probably, because it's $160.
Okay, that's about it.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I will say that it looks impressive, and I like how you can customize everything on it. But for $160, I would normally say I would hire a midget. In this case, I'll hire you to play the game for me.
That's just ableist. I don't understand. Wait, is that insulting midgets or me? Whatever. Let's quickly talk about this last Smash Direct, because it feels like we've been talking for 3.5 hours. So, how long have we been talking?
Almost 2.
Okay, this will be quick. They showed Cloud's moveset. I tried Cloud. Plays okay. Not as straightforward as you might think. Fun, but weird. Very little color variety. He's frowning in all of them. No Zac color. Strange. Corrin. You can be either male or female Corrin, the main character of the new Fire Emblem. You know, the one that's terribly, horribly homophobic. I'm going to refer to her as female because female Corrin looks way better than male Corrin. Corrin, despite being yet another swordsman, looks different and cool compared to them and looks like she will be a blast to play. Can turn herself into a dragon. Kind of really cool.
Huh.
Final DLC character is Bayonetta. Not surprising, still very cool. She looks like she's a weird combo character, like someone took a Marvel or a Fighting Climax character and plucked them into Smash. She's got guns, and when Kirby absorbs her hairstyle, he looks like he went into a coffee shop, and 3 hours later, he's still there. And that's apparently the last Smash update. Okay, done. That's Smash update. What else we gotta talk about?
That's it.
Oh, sweet, we're done. Let's get the hell out of here. I don't want to talk to you this long. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's all we've got on our tablet, or on
our tablet, our tabula rasa, even.
Yeah.
Our blank slate, which is not blank by virtue.
Any means?
Yeah. All right. You got anything to plug, Dave?
Nope.
Can I plug something?
Yep.
Orbisatherum.com. ORBISAETHERUM.com. You can listen to Tales of the Orbisatherum, my weekly serial podcast there. I have maintained a strict release schedule of one every Friday, and have been doing so for the last 18 weeks. My subscriber and listener count is very slowly, but steadily growing. And if you'd like to take a listen, see if my ongoing story in the universe of the Orbisatherum is right up your alley. Take a listen, let me know what you think. Yeah. Shout-outs to Meowth for her voicemails, and to Chris Weston for his. You can catch Chris Weston on Twitter at Wes_tons, and Meowth is at Meowth900 on Twitter.
That's it for us this week.
Yeah, you can find us on TwoFatGuysTalk.com, at TwoFatGuysTalk on Twitter. Our other show is Carl's Nave Anime Rave. Go to carlsnaveanimerave.com for more of that. You can find us a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away on Cypress Station 4. Simply tune your Droidcast tuner to Galactic Station Z3 and look for Two Fat Guys Talk. You can also find this in the depths of the Imperial's Death Star 5. Simply go down to Subbasement B, past the dead prisoner. You might have to grab a computer slicer from the prisoner, take it to a computer terminal, slice your way out of there, and while you're at it, grab a copy of our latest podcast. We're on Death Star 5. You can find us in any fictional world you may be residing in. Simply point your sword to the heavens and say, by the power of podcast, and yell Two Fat Guys Talk after. The only side effect is that it may turn you into a giant green cat or Inside Out, one or the other, or both.